Okay, so it is 1 p.m. on Tuesday, March 24th. I'm going to call the Infrastructure Committee meeting to order. Mike Samuelson, who is the chair, is absent. I'm Mike McGuffey. I'm the vice chair, so I'm chairing this meeting. With us is also Joe Stratton, who's the other member of the committee. We also have Maggie Dobbs, our manager, and Mike Pisano, our assistant manager, Jeff Eldon, our public works director, and Tony Catalozzi from Pinoni, our engineer. So I will take a motion on item number 1, which is approval of minutes from February 24th, 2026.
I move to approve the minutes.
I'll second that. All in favor of approving the minutes? That is 2-0 with one person absent. We have one discussion item on this agenda. We're going to be taking a motion to recommend approval. But no one is, we do have someone coming here. From the Shade Tree Commission. So since we have folks in the room, I think what I would like to do for the discussion item is first I'll take a motion to recommend so we can open the floor. We'll have staff give us information on it. Before we vote on any recommendations, I'll open it up to public comment just so that we have that before we make motions. And then we'll go back up to us for discussion. That sounds good. So I'll take a motion to recommend the capital improvement project for the baseball bleachers.
I make a motion to recommend.
Okay, I'll second that.
Thank you.
So now I'll go over to our public works director, I guess, was the one who had given us the memo. So Jeff, if you want to give us a update discussion of the parks improvement project.
Yeah, sure. So this project, was seen a long time ago just due to the condition of the bleachers, and the overall use that they got. Do we need to occupy that much space with something that's so seldomly used? Plus, these white pines they've been in bad condition for a long time. White pines are one of the few trees that almost like self-trim themselves, which is a very unfortunate thing because as they get taller, the lower branches will just naturally fall off due to lack of sunlight to those branches. The tree branches themselves will just die back and fall off. They do not regrow. We're proposing from a safety aspect to remove them, remove the bleachers, take out the concrete, and just kind of prepare this spot as just a sloped lawn area. For folks to kind of use how they wish, to spectate or, have a picnic, go there, hang out in the shade. So, any questions on that so far before we dive into, the how of the project?
No questions. Thank you.
First step of this potential project would be, the pines would be taken out. The Shriner, our tree company would park, their crane out, with, I don't think we'll need to block lanes of traffic, so it should be a very quick takedown. They'll get them cut down. My staff will come in and dismantle the bleachers, dispose of the wooden bleachers ourselves. The metal, we'll scrap, we'll make a few bucks off of that. Not much, but just enough for us to do it. And then our concrete contractor will come in with their equipment to remove the concrete. It's a total of, just shy of 4 feet, tall, so there's about 2.5 to 3 feet above ground and 18 inches underground of concrete for the concrete base that they rest on. So that's about 25 yards of concrete. So, that'll be a substantial amount of trips to the dump. And then we'll get some backfill soil first, to plug up about a foot of that hole before we bring in, a higher grade soil. And then we'll just kind of work to regrade that whole entire portion there.
That makes sense. Mm-hmm. So I'll note just informationally, because I think these questions had been raised to me before, which was one, had a certified arborist examine the trees. My understanding was yes. Mm-hmm. Right. And then, this has been contemplated in our master parks plan, so it's part of our, implementation of that. And then also my understanding as well is that the, Narberth Athletic Association and the Narberth Outsiders, who, the primary users of kind of that area of the park, are both it's been discussed with them, they're aware. So since we have kind of baseline information out there, and since this is an item we're gonna be voting on a recommendation for, I wanted to be able to take public comment before we actually vote on anything, and I know we have Carson, so I wasn't sure if you're here for this item or for general comment, but if you wanted to make comment on this item, I wanted to open it up.
Oh, thank you. So did the certified arborists say that the trees are, should be taken down?
The white pines, yes,
Oh, on what basis are they unhealthy or?
unhealthy, the fact that they're dropping limbs, so, be safety as spectators,
Okay, so is it all gonna be turf grass now? It's basically gonna be flat lawn,
it'll be a gentle slope, but yes, it will.
only grass. Is there any consideration putting a few small trees around or?
They will be there.
Pardon?
They will be planting trees, yeah.
Oh, okay. Great, yeah, if they plant native, we really appreciate that, but I know that's your case.
Yeah, and I think we keep a list of the recommended native trees on hand as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
What's the square footage then that's gonna be grass instead of?
I'd have to get that.
Oh, so you don't know what the project space is, sorry, I just gave it over in my head. And it's only the white pines that will be removed.
That's part of this project, yeah.
Okay.
But eventually, the oaks around the war memorial will be dropping this year too.
So they'll all be removed.
Eventually, yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm not understanding. When you said the thing about the oaks around the war memorial will be dropping? I don't know what that means.
Coming down, yes.
All the oaks around the
Mhm.
war memorial.
And that'll be part of a future project. So for this iteration, for this, what we're here to talk about today, we're talking about the chair area. And turning that into a.
I will say that the tree removal around the war memorial is part of our routine tree maintenance program, not part of a capital project.
Okay.
So if you recall, we had discussed as part of our capital planning last year, a much larger project incorporating more of the components of the sloped lawn area that was identified in the master parks plan. So we had initially in our CIP a larger dollar value for the scope of work, which included additional pathways connecting the bleachers to the war memorial, and then a kind of parallel side path off of Wynwood Avenue that was identified again in the master parks plan. We decided to narrow the focus for this year from just a cost perspective, to address the kind of near-term concerns with the health and safety of those trees. So we can certainly revisit some of the other components that were identified in the master parks plan, but this is the first step that would need to happen anyway in order to enable those future pathways and garden areas to be developed. So we will contemplate those again at a later date. And just focus on the bleacher removal, the tree removal, and then the restoration of the lawn areas as part of this capital project. And then again, the trees around the war memorial would be then as part of the routine shade tree maintenance that we have for the borough generally anyway.
Thank you for that context. That's really important, especially because I think when we were discussing the master parks plan, the idea over there was to create the ability for folks to circulate, especially if folks are going to be over there to watch the games, and also to have some ADA accessibility, because it's not right now you kind of have to go up and around. So I know that in discussions over budget last year, we had kind of pared it down to just the bleacher section. But
That's
thank
right,
you for
yes.
keeping the broader vision on hand.
Yes.
And also to kind of elevate the fact that we want to be doing native tree plantings for any new plantings that we have.
Yeah, I think this is only removal of trees, is my understanding.
For the bleacher,
And the war memorial, so we're just removing trees, so
Yeah, I
that's
think,
up to the.
yeah, Jeff, is there plantings associated with bleacher project as well?
Eventually, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, currently, until, excuse me. The Burks told us several years ago that until the entire park plan is determined, we cannot plant on Borough Park property. We cannot plant trees, so this would just be tree removal.
So I guess now that we have the master park plan in place, are there additional steps that we need in order to facilitate plantings, or what's the process for that?
It's identifying places for them to go with realizing, it's still a park, it's still open land, the 1 year down here, I think we did like 13 trees. The only planting spot, where trees could potentially go in the future is replacements, especially the spruce trees along the skate park. And whatever work happens, where the bleacher work is and that pathway.
Gotcha. So once we know where all of the assets are actually going to be,
Mhm.
and I'm going to call it a final configuration, but we know the final, the midterm final configuration, then we'll know where we'll be able to plant it without interacting negatively with those spaces. Is that a fair characterization? So I guess this next step is intended to do that, right? Is intended to have us get a sense of what the layout is going to be. So it's, if I'm interpreting correctly, and folks let me know if I'm wrong, it sounds like we will be able to once we implement this, be in a spot where we'll have a sense of where plantings can be. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, because especially back there, there's a few ratty trees, that just had a fair shot at life, with all the shade, the pH changing from the pines, there's a lot of environmental factors just in that one small spot back there. But also, there's a beautiful, swamp oak back there that won't really get its time to shine once these pines come down. There's a ginkgo tree back there, there's a lot of nice trees there that will finally have their room to grow, so.
And Carson, I wanted to, since you elevated a lot of these, I wanted to open it back up to you if you had any other thoughts on.
No, I think that the Shade Tree Commission always has to defer to the Public Works Committee. We don't really have anything to say about it.
And I'll come back to you, we have a general public comment as well, and I'll come back to you at that point if you wanted to provide us an update on which Shade Tree Commission is working on right now, but.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I only came because I was told to, so.
Okay, why not? We'll have it, I know that now that Shade Tree is gonna be reporting to this committee,
Yeah.
we wanted to get that kind of muscle memory.
Okay, sure.
So we appreciate it.
No worries. Yeah, thanks. And this is my colleague Don Wexler, who's also on that.
Hang on. That sounds good, so in terms of this particular item, I'll bring it back up to here. Joe, do you have any other questions for staff or anyone on this?
No questions, thank you.
I think this makes sense, so if you're ready to vote to recommend, then we can go ahead on that motion that's already been made. Sound good?
Sound good?
Let's do it. All right. So 2-0 to recommend approval to council of that project. So then our other item in terms of the committee is reports. What did public health and safety, which I'll deal with in the last meeting?
No substantial updates. We continued, there was a conversation about traffic calming, traffic safety, but no new issues came up.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's good. Finance and administration, we finalized the reporting structure recommendations which council adopted at the last meeting. Talk about that in a moment. And the facilities rental policy is still ongoing. We're going to be working on that. We're going to big things? I mean, we normally see the bills and those sorts of things at FNA, so we discussed that. Is there any other big things I'm missing from our last FNA agenda?
You're making me think back to a couple days ago.
That most,
I think that most of the big things, yeah. We did pass on the boards and commissions reporting structure, which council adopted at the business meeting, which is now why Shade Tree is reporting to infrastructure. But that's really the main other thing.
okay, that sounds good. Then we'll have our Amtrak Bridge update.
Yeah, so utilities are still working on the disconnects. We had a couple utilities, they had to dig a trench and bury some of their conduit, which is at least one of the utilities is completed with that scope of work. The next steps will be for the contractor to be installing some catenary to cross over the railroad tracks itself. Some of the utilities were temporarily attached to that catenary. And then we'll just continue with all of those utility connects and disconnects. So there's a couple of utility poles that are coming down, a couple new ones that are going up. So you may have seen some of the storage of materials in the right of way up on Elmwood Avenue. So that will take the next couple of months to kind of finalize all of those utility connects and disconnects, which is in more or less in keeping with our schedule. There will be some tree clearing. I don't have the dates for that yet, but there will be some night work tree clearing. So we will certainly notify our neighbors when that is occurring. So follow the social media, follow the newsletter, follow the website, and we'll post all of those updates across those platforms to notify folks of when that's occurring, especially as it relates to the night work. So those are the big things coming up for the next couple of weeks.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Joe, do you have any questions about Amtrak Bridge?
I don't, thank you.
Sounds good. Then our last on our reports item, before we get to public comment, will be a grant update. Is there any grant update?
Currently, no. So we did submit for our Monco 2040. So that submission deadline was at the beginning of March. The next phase for our grant submissions will be the DCED C2P2 grant that is due at the end of April. So we are taking the scope of work and modifying it to fit the grant format for DCED. So we'll be submitting that, I'm sorry, DCNR, not DCED, DCNR C2P2 grant. So we'll be on target to submit that by the end of April. And again, that's just going to be for the other half of the funding for the Elmwood Avenue project. We should know about the results of the grant submission and the award status in about 3 to 4 months from the County Planning Commission and the county commissioners as to the results of that application. So hopefully we'll know relatively soon. The results of the DCNR grant, though, will not be released until typically November time range. So we won't know about that until the end of the year. So we do have, funds committed to this for next year for installation. So we're optimistic that we'll at least have half of the funding, if not more, if we're successful with our Monco 2040 grants. And then the Monco 2040 does count as match for the DCNR, and the DCNR does count as match for the Monco 2040. So by the end of the year, we'll know what our funding structure will look like. And then we'll finalize with our permit. I know we still need a DEP permit, which Pannoni is working through. So we have a couple months in the DEP permit review cycle. So that should coincide roughly with the announcement of the results of the DCNR grant. And then we'll be able to kickstart the work then in the early spring of 2027. So that is our construction timeline. And we're optimistic that we'll have the funding that we need to offset any capital costs to the greatest extent possible. So we'll keep our fingers crossed.
And remind me one, which is for the grant funding. We can only use both of those on implementation. So like in terms of the design work that need to be done for like the water quality facility, we cover that on our own, or can either of those be used for the?
Yeah, so both of those grants do cover the stormwater facility. They're a little bit limited in terms of what we can account from a engineering perspective. So our engineering services that we've required to date to draft the plan are ineligible expenses. So we do have some out-of-pocket costs to Panoni for the drafting of the actual design. But there is some allowance in the DCNR grant to account for some of the preliminary engineering services. So we may be able to account for some of that, provided we're awarded that funding. And both of those grants do cover the installation of the stormwater management facility. Additionally, we are seeking a third grant source, which is the low volume road from the County Conservation District, to cover the actual cost of installation. So the construction installation costs of the stormwater facility, again, which is all offsetting. These are all grants that play well together. So any grant awards that we receive can serve as match dollars to offset the borough match for the other grants. So essentially, when we're required to have grant match for these grants, we can just count the money from the other grants that we received as our own match, as opposed to putting in capital dollars towards that match.
Can I ask a question? Is the Elmwood project? I don't know anything.
Can I say that one more time?
What is the Elmwood project?
Great question. So, you know, the Elmwood, the pedestrian bridge at the,
Yeah.
so that is in need of replacement.
Right.
And so that's the primary component of the project, is to be able to replace that, in a way that, is sustainable.
Sure.
And in addition to that, because we know that, and staff, jump in if I'm missing anything or if I'm misremembering anything, because our stormwater runoff in the Barrow all gets diverted into the East Branch Indian Lake. We are looking at trying to do a water quality facility right at the stub end of that roadway, so that as the runoff is heading towards the creek, it filters pollutants out before it makes its way in. So that's also a component. It's these two pieces, and then is also meant to serve as a parks connection into Elm Grove Park. So did I cover that?
Yeah, the only thing that we're missing in that is that it also includes some stream bank restoration. So the whole stream bank is stabilized by boulders, rock wall. Those are deteriorating and crumbling and disintegrating kind of underneath, so it's being undermined. So we're going to be building a new boulder wall. We're using the Gabion baskets, which are those wire baskets filled with stone, to restore the stream bank. So we got the stream bank. So it's a 4-part project. It's demolition of the existing pedestrian bridge.
Right.
It's reconstruction of a new pedestrian bridge on the north side of Elmwood Avenue that will have better connections into the Elm Grove Park. So we're going to have like walkway stub outs that'll connect them to future phases of the park development for our passive recreation there. Stream bank restoration, and then depaving of about 20 feet of the end of Elmwood Avenue for this stormwater facility, which is primarily a sediment capture, but we'll also do rate and volume controls to slow down some of the water that's just discharging directly into the stream. So it'll filter out the pollutants and sediments, and then serve as a rate and volume control as well. Tony, did I catch it all?
One small detail is that the current Gabion baskets are there now, and that's what's failing, and we're replacing them with boulders. You know, we're moving away from the Gabion baskets because they don't do well.
Right, I've read that, yeah.
Oh, sorry, okay, misnomer. So Gabion baskets are there, replacing with a boulder wall, so we'll have the stronger stream banks at the end of this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know the original proposal that the money was, you know, when the Conservancy wrote the grant to get the money to buy the land, they had proposed kind of leveling, you know, as the culvert comes in from the other side of Haverford Avenue. They had talked about leveling that stream, that culvert thing we call a stream. It's not really a stream. So that it'll have a longer term, slower move. And also there was the idea that that would be like a nature park with like trees in it, but I know that's been sort of given up on. Is that?
Yeah, so all of those components that you
Right.
mentioned are in the master parks plan. So in the parks plan, if you take a look at the preferred design for Elm Grove Park, it does include the removal of the hardscaped stream bank and restoration of a more riparian corridor.
Right.
So that would then adjust the grade, have the plantings. the walkways, as I mentioned, and significant amount of plantings are proposed for this. This is not an active recreation park, so it is intended for future designs to be passive recreation and naturalized. So we are just, slowly chipping away at these phases. This is kind of the first phase that we're able to do right now, but we will be looking at those future phases to do the stream bank restoration. That will also help with some of our MS4 credits. So that will factor into those designs, and then the naturalization of the land itself. So
that might be more like 2030, if 2027 is the bridge.
so we haven't
6 years.
we haven't gamed out
Got it.
all of the proposals, because the master parks plan, of course, came up with tons of different recommendations for all of our parks. And we still have Sabine that wasn't included in the master parks plan. So I can't say for sure that it's going to be 2030, but we are looking at how we want to phase the various projects. So part of it is going to be where we can and want to spend the limited time and resources that we have, and then the grant funding that would be available for those things. So
Yeah, and just so you know, once that is leveled, it will make a big impact on how it comes through closer to where that bridge is, so. I mean, I get the boulder thing, it doesn't really work, but it's better than the rocks with the wire.
Right, yeah, the intention there is just to,
Just for now.
is to fix the,
Yeah.
is to fix the wall, yeah.
So in the future though, whenever that is, it will be quite as crazy a situation, and I think having that management of stormwater there at the base of Elmwood is really gonna make a big positive impact too, so that's great.
Yeah, and that was something that we discussed in the Parks Plan Study Committee as well. And I think one of the things that was brought up was that because we only control, I think, to the center line of the
Mhm.
creek.
Yes.
So we can only end up doing the rest, obviously,
Correct.
for anyone who's listening on, we can only do the restoration on our side. And so, yes, if you're listening in the future on a video, you go online and you look at the master parks plan, it will show you kind of the restoration on our side, though obviously the other owner is responsible for whatever
correct.
they're doing on their side of the
Right.
of the creek.
Got it.
So thank you for bringing that up. And I pulled it up, so.
So I can find it on the website, I'll read it.
You can, and I can give you, after the meeting's over, you can come over and take a look at it as well.
Sounds good. I'm happy to look it up on the website.
Yeah. So thank you for bringing them up. And then that, I think, reminded me just, because I think there's, every time we do the water quality facilities, new folks rediscover the fact that we're doing water quality facilities for the first time. And I know that we have, the universe of 30 of the bump outs was widely shared recently. But the water quality facility here is obviously not a bump out, so it wasn't included on that. So I just, as we kind of continue forward, we want to make sure that we're, alerting the folks right next to it so that they have a heads up over time that, that facility is planned.
Mhm.
And I think we talked last time about, there's one of the households, their primarily pedestrian access is kind of right there, making sure that they're
Yeah.
accounting for that.
We had looked at that prior to the submission of the grant, and the plan originally showed that sidewalk was going to be eliminated. That currently leads to the bridge that's on the south side of Elmwood Avenue. But after looking at it, we decided to maintain that sidewalk access. So that sidewalk will just stub out where the bridge is coming out. So that will maintain that connection point. And there's the stormwater facility is not interfering with anybody's driveway access points. So the sidewalk will be fully maintained. Driveway access points will not be impacted. And all of those residents will be notified as to the intended scope of work, just to alert them that this is happening. But it's, in our roadway and not impacting any of their access to their properties.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Do you have any other?
No, thank you.
Okay. So that closes that one out, and now we'll go to public comment, and I appreciate our shade tree friends for joining us today, since y'all are now kind of, I know you, in the past, you've been connected, I think, to public health and safety maybe,
Yeah.
but we kind of have rearranged the connecting, so we wanted to invite you guys to come and engage with us, let us know what you're working on. We'd just love to hear from y'all.
Well, our spring is very different from usual because we ordinarily do plantings the third week in April and third week in November in concert with the Pennsylvania Horticultural Society. And but this year, when we were in February, when we were about to order the plants for April, we found out that the borough has requested that we only plant in the right of way, which up until a couple of years ago is what we did. But the Pennsylvania Horticultural Society changed their, what would you call it, their point of view, whatever, and they wanted us to plant just as many trees as possible. So we were starting to plant people's side yards, backyards, and, but that was new to us. Anyway, but the borough did ask us to no longer plant in people's yards using borough resources. So we canceled our spring planting, and we're gonna figure out what to do as we work with you guys more closely, and we're gonna hopefully we'll plant in November. Yeah, as we learn what you expect of us and what you don't want us to do. Yeah.
April 11th, Power to Volunteer Appreciation.
Yes.
Also, the mayor's gonna read a proclamation so we can keep our Tree City Arbor Day Foundation status. So there's the picture.
Yeah.
And then also we'll do a trimming demonstration. So and then if anybody wants to trim shade trees around that need trimming, they can do that.
So we're teaching people proper ways to trim their trees in anticipation of, I mean, most people in Narberth have lawn services, but people who will trim their own trees so that they follow the guidance. So we're trying to help people learn better how to do that. So we're having this event. We also want to acknowledge our volunteers because we get like 50 people plant. We have a lot of people in Narberth who are committed to planting trees, and there's kind of nothing for them to do this spring. So we're going to have this instead as like a thank you and the some food and stuff. And the Arbor Day Foundation thing, that is a large nonprofit, but they do run this Tree Cities USA program, which that's why we have the signs. But in order to do that, you commit to spending as a municipality $2 per resident per year. But if we're not going to be planting as many trees, that's going to really drop. So we'll see. We're hoping there's other ways that you can account for the dollars, have it not just be planting trees, but like cover some of the if there's any staffing costs to maintaining trees or. So we have to see, but we don't know about that. But we are doing the event with the mayor because that's one of the requirements for Tree City USA. So anyway, the Shade Tree Commission is in a huge reorganization and flux. So we're figuring out what we're going to be doing. So, yeah, and we're also working on the thing. We're resurrecting the ordinances that
And there's something that borough council, you know more how we do, making sure the ordinances are the same as possible.
and what the borough council wants them to be.
Yeah, and thank you for bringing that up as well. It's something I know on council, Councilmember Spear has been
Yes.
asking us to, consider an update for this for a while. So I think it's gonna end up coming through this committee. And I know that there was wasn't here at the time, there was a first pass, I guess, like in 2020
Two.
to
And
try to
we've gotten as far as the solicitor approving it, and then the borough council was gonna vote on it, but the manager told us that it wasn't a priority, so they weren't gonna vote on it.
I think it's a priority now.
Maybe,
And and just generally, we y'all are volunteers and you're out here in the middle of the day as volunteers. So we appreciate
Thanks.
all y'all's work. And I know that council just generally wants to have a closer relationship with our commission. So we really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. That's nice of you to say. Appreciate that.
Absolutely. Is there anything else from y'all or from Joe? Any?
Just curious, when we think about numbers of trees planted in the right of way or percentage in the right of way versus not in the right of way, do you have a ballpark percentage?
Well, we've been asked this before. I mean, I can look it up, but we only started planting on private property. I'm gonna say 3 years ago. I'm trying to remember. I could look that up too, but it was when the Pennsylvania Horticultural Society said, oh, you can plant in people's yards because a shade tree that's planted is gonna benefit everyone. And I know other people refer to it as we're supporting people's landscaping on their properties, which really was very insulting to me, but anyway, just planting shade trees. But we've only done it for a couple of years, so we usually plant around 20, sometimes 30 trees a time. And in the last couple of years, because we can't plant in the parks, and we've planted 480 trees since I've been on the Shade Tree Commission. So, yeah, what would you
I
say?
would say like 75, 25% were in the right of way. Is that too high?
Yeah, just
In the last few
couple of
years.
In the last few years.
Before then, they were all in the right of way.
Right,
Yeah,
So, and I walk around Narberth and there's still a lot of spaces for trees to be in people's yards in the right of way if they would like.
thank you.
but
So,
most
yeah.
people don't like trees. It's
Well,
not a thing.
I don't know. I think some people do, and I also think
Some
that,
people do.
yeah. I think,
That's very helpful, thank you.
John digs the hole, so God bless her. He
Uh,
does everyone.
If I can also add to that, so the conversation that we had earlier this year with Shade Tree was that from a borough expenditure, we cover the cost for the shade trees being planted. So we will still cover all of the trees that are within the right of way. But trees planted outside the right of way, we were able to work with Fongy. So, and I believe, Carson, this was relayed to Shade Tree already that we had the conversation with Fongy, or is this
Yeah.
news? Okay.
No, you signed it to us in writing.
Yeah. So Fongy has committed to covering the gap for any trees that Shade Tree is going to be planting. So, out of the 20 trees or so, if you do the fall planting, if there's say 20 trees, if 5 of them are in the right of way, the borough will cover those costs, and then Fongy is going to cover the rest of the cost. So materially speaking, there should be no difference in how the program is administered. The only difference is coming in to who's paying for which trees, and it's just based on where those trees are located. So, we're supporting Shade Tree and all of your efforts moving forward, and hoping that the fall planting, since we didn't do a spring planting this year, is robust, and we'll be working with you guys on making sure that everything is smooth sailing. So it really shouldn't impact the actual kind of mechanics of how it's done. And there's such an amazing group of volunteers that you guys work with. So we're so grateful for all of that support. And we'll be working with Shade Tree as well so there's the planting event on the 11th.
Well, it's not a planting event.
I'm sorry.
Trimming and.
The pruning and volunteer appreciation.
Yeah.
So we'll be working with them as well on just navigating some of the outreach and education in advance of our vegetation removal kind of program that we're kicking off this year. So everyone has been notified already through mailings and the tax bills. So we'll continue to communicate that. Shade Tree was kind enough to provide us with some information from PHS about some proper pruning techniques and some other information that we've now posted to the website. So we'll just continue to provide education and outreach, and looking forward to your event on the 11th.
Thank you very much, it's very helpful, and just to clarify for any listeners, the financial resources that the Fongy would use for the tree planting, those resources are coming from places other than the borough?
Yeah, so Fongy is a 501c3, they're a nonprofit, and they're all privately funded. So they did just launch their donation page and donation website. So we did link to them through our newsletter and on our website. So they're affiliated with the borough, but it is not borough funds. It's not public dollars. These are not taxpayer dollars that are going through Fongy. This is all private donations.
Thank you.
So if anybody would like to, you can donate through Fongy, and then those funds will be earmarked towards these green initiative programs, inclusive of tree plantings and other projects that Fongy is partnering with the borough to administer.
Appreciate it. Is there anything else from anyone?
Well, I'll make a public comment. So in my little neighborhood in South Narberth, there's this very old ginkgo tree, which by the way is an Asian tree, but it's far from a native tree, which was planted in a terrible spot, however many years ago, and it's crushing the stormwater thing. And the people in my neighborhood have just gone like totally January 6th. I mean, they're like nuts about this tree. And I think to myself, how is it, like one of the things was one of my neighbors freaking out about it being gonna be a bioswale, lose our whatever you call it, our parking. And I looked at the grade on that part of Woodside Avenue, I'm like, who would ever put a bioswale like at the base of that grade? It was never on the list. But the neighbors who were freaking out about it, like I say it right to their face, it was never on the list, it's not on the list, you're not losing your parking space. And it's just absolutely, people are just crazy about it. And I don't know how maybe other municipalities have dealt with this kind of stuff, but the misunderstanding about trees and shade trees and stormwater management, it's just colossally, it's kind of scary actually, because Rick Trallies and I both live on the same street and both of us have become like, those shade tree people. It's just about, well, you were there the other day, so the other day. I don't know, like, is there a place where people don't freak out about this little ginkgo getting taken down, fixing the stormwater? I don't know, it just seems funny to me. So extreme is what scares me a little,
Yeah,
Weird.
I know communications is always a challenge in any governmental entity, right?
Yeah.
And we see this every, whenever we do, take the stormwater bump outs, for
Right.
example. I feel like whenever we do another round of stormwater bump outs,
Yeah,
that's kind of when when it's suddenly visible again.
yeah,
And then folks, whatever their concern around that asset might be, it becomes elevated for that period of time. It gives us another opportunity to do public education on what these things are and why they're beneficial. And then it usually kind of settles down a bit until the next kind of round of infrastructure projects. I don't know that there's any easy answers to it, but I know that we're focused on, we're gonna put together like an FAQ on what the bump outs are and what our MS4 pollutant reduction plan requirements are. So hopefully that information, we do have information up on the website, and hopefully, with a bit more information, that'll help. And we appreciate, you were describing earlier that the educational work that y'all do in terms of trees. So it's kind of, I don't know that there's a silver bullet, but I think we have like lots of little points where we can try to let folks know. And then when you're in the vice of a controversy, right, it's often, I'll speak personally, when I'm in the vice of a controversy, it's often hard kind of to hear something because there's so much noise, there's a lot going on.
yeah,
But making those assets available, being able to try to get things out, and then when you are in the midst of a controversy of a moment, also just kind of keeping your eye on what the important goals are and continuing to try to talk with folks, make sure they feel heard. There's probably lots of other things to do, but I know it's an important point, so we appreciate you kind of elevating.
yeah. It's hard because like the one person whose property it's on, she had complained to me about it, like when she first got the citation. And this past week or 2 weeks ago, she's talking about zoning changes and parking. And she said, what's gonna keep people who live in other parts of Narberth from parking on our streets? And I say, well, we have designated permit park. Never heard of it, never once. She had no idea that we had permits for parking on different neighborhoods. So at that point I thought to myself, well, someone who never heard of, permit parking in Narberth, what am I gonna do about having her become someone who's like, engaged or whatever? I don't know, it's kind of funny, but
Yeah.
I don't envy you guys because the blowback is fierce, man. Whew. Gosh.
Well, we appreciate your moral support.
There you go, that's all I can give you.
So we appreciate that, and I think if that's any other things from folks, I think that I'll take a motion to adjourn, and remember I have the
yes,
the park plan.
Donna, next,
Motion to
I'll
adjourn.
make a wish to adjourn.
Second, all in favor of adjournment? Yeah, thanks, y'all.
Thank you, everybody.